Back in 1947, the US sent this massive naval fleet down to Antarctica. Now, the official story was that this was Operation Highjump, just a simple scientific expedition. But there's another story, one that says the official story is a total cover-up for what really went down, a secret invasion that got hit with some terrifying resistance. So, what really happened out there on the ice? In this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers of Operation Highjump, and honestly, what we find might just change how you see the world.
Okay, so let's just jump right into the heart of this mystery. This quote, it's pretty alarming, and it comes straight from the decorated naval hero who was leading the whole thing, Admiral Richard E. Byrd. Now, right away, this is where the official story starts to fall apart. Byrd comes back from the ice, not with exciting tales of scientific breakthroughs, but with this really cryptic warning about a new and, frankly, terrifying enemy.
And that is the central question we're looking at here. What could have possibly shaken one of America's most famous explorers in what's supposed to be the most empty, desolate place on Earth? To figure that out, we've got to treat this like a cold case. First, we'll look at the official report, and then we're going to look for all the cracks. So, let's start with the story the public was fed. On paper, Operation Highjump was supposed to be this very straightforward mission. Establish a research base, do some aerial mapping, test out military gear in the freezing cold. But the sheer scale of this so-called research trip, well, that seems to tell a very different story. First, just think about the number of people involved. 4,700 men. That's basically the population of a small town, all sent to the most hostile environment on the entire planet for what was publicly called a mapping exercise. Doesn't that seem just a little excessive?
And it wasn't just the manpower. Look at the hardware they dragged along with them. We're talking about an aircraft carrier, destroyers, submarines, dozens and dozens of military aircraft. Let's be real, this wasn't some scientific convoy. This was a full-blown naval task force. It was the largest military force ever sent to the Antarctic. Ever.
And this, right here, is the first huge red flag in this whole investigation. You've got a military force that's basically big enough for an invasion, on one hand, and on the other, the official story is, oh, it's just a simple scientific research trip. The two just don't add up. It really makes you ask, what were they really getting ready for?
And the problems with the official story don't stop with the mission's crazy scale. The timeline itself is maybe the most damning piece of evidence that something went horribly, horribly wrong.
So the expedition was planned to last for 6 full months. 6 months, a really comprehensive survey of the entire continent. But as you can see from this timeline, they suddenly packed up and fled after only 8 weeks. The official excuse was the early onset of winter, but rumors started flying almost immediately. Whispers of a terrifying run-in with some kind of hostile, unknown force.
So you just have to ask, right? Why would a fleet that was specifically designed for extreme cold, led by the world's #1 polar explorer, get scared off by an early winter? Or was that just the most convenient cover story they could come up with for a full-scale retreat?
To get closer to the answer, we have to go back to the man in charge. Because when he got back, Admiral Byrd seemed to be living in 2 completely different realities. There was the clean, sanitized official report he had to file, and then there were the chilling warnings he was allegedly giving to people in private.
Just look at this contradiction. On one hand, the public report is all about a frozen, empty continent and a successful mapping mission. But his other alleged statements, they paint this picture of worlds beyond the ice walls, a place that's home to an enemy with just incredible technology. The same guy was describing 2 totally different worlds.
So what in the world did they find out there? Well, the official reports are totally silent, but unofficial accounts, from alleged whistleblowers and supposedly declassified documents, they paint a very different picture. They describe an encounter that sounds like it was ripped from the pages of a sci-fi novel. They describe something they call the Guardians.
According to these stories, Byrd's task force was met by these unidentified craft, literal flying saucers that came screaming out of the ocean. They could maneuver at speeds and angles that were just unheard of in 1947, and they actually engaged the fleet. These were the supposed enemy Byrd was warning everyone about, the Ice Wall Guardians.
Okay, so who or what are they? This is where the story takes a sharp turn into the truly bizarre, and there are a few big theories out there. Some people suggest they're the survivors of a lost Ice Age civilization, a super high-tech society that's been living in secret under the ice.
Others connect them to ancient astronaut theories. Maybe they're Anunnaki descendants, or the tall whites you hear about from some whistleblowers, or even the Nordic aliens that pop up in UFO lore all the time.
All of these strange and very different theories, they all seem to point toward one single mind-bending conclusion, that Operation Highjump wasn't about mapping the surface of Antarctica at all. It was about finding what lies beneath it.
The ultimate secret, according to these sources, is that the real goal was to find an entrance to something called the Agartha network. This is an idea that comes from all sorts of old traditions, the idea of this vast underground world, an entire civilization that exists right under our feet. And according to this theory, Antarctica is its front door.
So, when you start connecting the dots of this whole alternative story, a completely new picture starts to form. Step 1. The mission wasn't about research, it was an invasion. Step 2. That invasion was stopped cold by a force with way better technology. Step 3. This force is guarding a gateway. And Step 4. That gateway leads to a hidden world right here, inside our own.
When you look at it that way, the story completely flips. Operation Highjump didn't end early because of a little bad weather. No, the largest military force ever sent to the ice was met by a power that made their modern weapons look like toys. And they were, to put it simply, kicked out.
Ever since 1947, the heart of Antarctica has been basically off-limits, protected by all these international treaties. The official reason is always environmental protection. But after digging into this story, you really have to wonder, are they protecting the ice or are they protecting us from what's under it? As that ice keeps melting, the biggest question of all is, what secrets are finally going to be revealed? And maybe more importantly, will we be ready for the answers?